The first time you see him in Street Fighter 6, your brain pauses. The hat is still there, the stare still burns. The menace didn't go anywhere, but something fundamental has shifted. The polished dictator has vanished. In his place stands a scarred warlord who rides in on a black horse like he owns the horizon. The uniform is heavier, the cloak is rougher, the silhouette reads like a storm front. This is not the Bison you remember. Why the change? Because the team wanted you to feel different the instant he enters the frame. The look isn't just a wardrobe swap, it's story, it's psychology, it's visual language that turns a familiar villain into a moving legend. In the next few minutes, we'll decode the horse, the scars, the power cues, and the lore choices that make Bison feel new without erasing who he is. We'll map how the design becomes gameplay and outline 3 believable arcs his character could follow from here. By the end, you'll see why a single rider on a single horse completely rewires your expectations. First shock, Bison on a horse. The image hits like a thunderclap. Bison isn't standing in a throne room bathed in cold light and corporate power. He's outside, he's mounted. The ground shakes before he speaks. A horse changed the grammar of the character. Visually, it riffs on those grand Napoleon on horseback portraits. Imperial, theatrical, and meant to claim the scene before a single punch is thrown. A throne makes you wait for an audience. A horse makes you chase the rider. Authority stops being a room he controls and becomes a path he chooses. The message is loud and simple. The empire is mobile now. The horse reframes him as a conqueror without walls. That matters because the old Bison projected control through stillness. He didn't need to move. The world moved for him. This version is kinetic. He carries his power forward like a spear, not a shield. The entrance is no longer polished pageantry. It's grit, leather, dust. You can almost feel the heat of the road. Even before a fight starts, the scene has texture. It also injects survival into the character. Saddles imply distance. Distance implies scars. This is someone who has crossed things. Land, time, enemies, and brought the journey back to you. You read that instantly before a single line. That's good storytelling through silhouette. The horse becomes a statement piece, not a meme. It says he doesn't need a fortress or a boardroom to feel imperial. He is the fortress, he is the boardroom. Wherever he stops, that's the capital. There's another reason it works. Horses carry legend. Conquerors ride them, outlaws ride them, kings ride them when they want the world to know who's in charge. Put a character on a horse and you give him myth without a monologue. You also give him motion. A rider arrives, you don't just discover him. In a series where entrances matter, this one is unforgettable. It tells you he's done being stationary, he's on the hunt. But a striking entrance needs a face that can carry it. That brings us to the scars and the cloak, the details that do most of the talking. Scars, cloak, silhouette. Look at the face first. The scars aren't neat. They're not decorative lines for fashion. They carve across him like a map of old battles, and when he channels energy, they seem to answer. It reads as cost. It reads as consequence. Past versions made Bison feel ageless, almost synthetic. Here he's mortal in a way you can't ignore. He has been hit by the world and chose to keep moving anyway. That alone changes how you process the smirk. You don't just see arrogance, you see endurance flexing. Now the cloak, it isn't parade fabric. It's heavy and wind-bitten, a moving banner that makes him larger than life. Bison's capes have always given theatrics. This one gives weather. It makes him look like an element, sand, storm, night, shaping the scene as he passes. The edges are rough enough that you don't think officer, you think sovereign without paperwork. There's authority here, but no bureaucracy. He is power, stripped of ballast. The silhouette seals it. Street Fighter characters are built for instant recognition. cape, broad chest, those remain, but the weight has shifted. The boots feel like they've actually stomped through dangerous places. The shoulders suggest strain, not just swagger. Even his stance is different. Less stiff command, more loose readiness, like someone who expects resistance and welcomes it. That one choice pulls him away from boardroom tyrant and into campaign general. These choices matter because design is subtext. You can draw a villain 10 different ways: clean and clinical, sleek and elegant, or scarred and undeniable. This Bison is the third path. He is his own evidence. You don't have to like him to believe him. Psycho power, pain, and control. Bison's energy has always been his signature. Waves, surges. The screen bending around a charge you can feel in your ribs. In SF6, the way that energy behaves tells a different story. Sometimes it flares harsh and hungry, sometimes it cools into something steadier. In short bursts, he looks unstoppable. Push it too long and you can almost imagine the winds, the body taxed by the very storm he wields. That tension between pain and control makes every decision feel alive. It suggests his mastery isn't free anymore, it has to be measured. You might catch a cool flicker that hints at focus, then a harsher pulse that hints at volatility. Players debate what the colors or flares imply, but they don't need an answer to feel the point. The animation tells you there's a tug of war under the skin. There's a ripple effect in the match. Every time Bison taps into big power, the viewer reads intent. It isn't background noise. It looks like a will choice. He's not dripping energy like a faucet. He's gripping a fire hose. That imagery rewires how you watch him. You're bracing for impact, yes. But you're also tracking whether he holds the line or cracks under his own current. All of this opens doors for a story without a single subtitle. If power bites back, he can't coast forever. If discipline calms it, he can change. Not into a saint, but into a strategist. If neither works, he needs a new answer. Suddenly, the monster has dilemmas that don't feel cheap. You don't have to forgive him to be curious about his next move. Amnesia, clones, and the art of the comeback Street Fighter has always given Bison escape hatches. Hosts, replications, fragments of will. He's the villain who refuses to stay buried. SF6 takes advantage of that legacy to strike a balance. The icon returns without ejecting the new threats from center stage. He exists, but he doesn't swallow the story. How do you make that believable? You change what he remembers and what he can sustain. If memory is fractured, he can walk the earth without rebuilding a global machine overnight. If the body is stressed, he can fight like a god in bursts, but pay for it after. If the will is intact but the framework is gone, his presence is dangerous, not dominant. That gives the current big bad room to breathe while giving longtime fans the thrill of the hat and the grin. There's a quieter effect too. When a character's memory is light, the audience projects their own. You start asking, does he recall what he did to Chun-Li's life? Does he remember Ryu's final strike? Does Guile still see the same monster when he looks into those eyes? If memories are foggy, interactions can shift tone without breaking canon. Old enemies might hesitate. He might hesitate. The tension rises not from a cheap twist, but from a pause. That's elegant plotting. It lets him exist as a force of nature again, but with limitations that make space for everyone else. The horse as lore device, not meme. A lesser approach would turn the mount into a gag. That's not what happens here. The horse is treated with gravity. It appears when Bison wants to speak without words, then disappears when fists take over. It's not shoved into every move as a joke. It's a symbol that carries weight. It shows how he travels. It shows how he sees himself. It turns entrances into declarations. There's symbolism baked in. A horse is a test of control. You don't pilot it like a machine. You communicate. That frame fits the restrain the storm energy perfectly. He projects mastery without fuss. Rains or not, the animal moves with him. The message writes itself. If he can bend a living force to his rhythm, he can bend a room. It also solves a practical problem. After so many iterations, how do you make Bison feel new at a glance? The horse does it instantly. It turns a static silhouette into a moving tableau. It stops you from scrolling. It lodges a memory the first time you see it. Yes, a tank or a jet would be louder. A throne would be grand. But a horse is timeless. It links emperors and exiles, tyrants and heroes. It lifts him out of sci-fi sterility and drops him into myth. When design becomes gameplay. You feel the philosophy the moment the round starts. The kit is lean, mean, and unmistakably Bison. Signature aggression returns in a form that tells the same story the costume tells. Authority that moves. He closes gaps with menace. He claims space by marching through yours. The playstyle communicates decree. Less fortress building, more forward pressure. Veterans will notice the remix. Some old tools are gone or transformed. Others return in new clothes. What remains is identity, the famous charge that makes the screen feel small. The momentum that makes your corner feel closer than it is. Sharp bursts of control, then sudden spikes of brutality. You sense that the character traded some laboratory sheen for road dust. That's not a loss. It's a translation. He isn't a general behind glass. He's a warlord up close. The risk-reward rhythm matches the new mood. You can't spam presence and expect compliance. You need timing, you need reads, make the right call and the response feels imperial. The match swings like a gate. Make the wrong call and you feel the cost. The opponent breathes, the storm resets. That cadence mirrors the design, burst of domination framed by the bite of using dangerous power. For loyalists, the return of iconic beats is a homecoming. For skeptics, the cleaner package feels sharper and more honest. It leans into intimidation without deleting the opponent's agency. That's a hard needle to thread. Here, it lands. Design is subtext, and this model speaks in short, legible sentences. Power without a throne. He doesn't need a vast organization to feel like himself. If the old machine is gone, he becomes the machine. He rides to problems and solves them with his hands. Memory without certainty. The scars and the wandering frame suggest a man living in the present tense. He still craves strength. He still enjoys fear. But whether he recalls every grudge is unclear. That lets scenes slow down around him and make space for nuance without turning him soft. Control under stress. The energy looks both potent and corrosive. He can still rip a stage open, but not for free. That reality nudges him toward discipline, not as morality, but as survival, a door to multiple futures. The look supports 3 believable paths: neutrality with a code, a desperate hunt for a new host, or a brief softening followed by a brutal relapse. Each option fits the silhouette and the kit. Just as important is what you don't see. No boardroom parade, no immaculate uniform with a ranked entourage. You see a creature who had to get up, get out, and keep moving. Even those who hate him have to look twice. 3 plausible story directions. Path 1. The neutral warlord. He isn't good, but he isn't conquering nations either. He has a code now, power without chains. He refuses to kneel to anyone, including his old self. He rides into trouble when it amuses him and rides away when the lesson's done. This creates electric chemistry across the cast. Chun-Li will not forgive, but she might pause if he isn't hunting civilians. Ryu watches the restraint and wonders if discipline finally won. Guile weighs justice against opportunity. Sagat stalks him for answers. In this lane, Bison becomes a force the story deploys when the sky needs to darken. Path 2. The host seeker. The scars aren't aesthetic. The power is eating him. He can fight, but every surge cuts deeper. He needs a solution. That need is the plot. He tests candidates. He picks fights not to conquer, but to measure compatibility. It's colder. It's cruel. It's very Bison. The horse becomes metaphor. Control he's trying to keep while the clock ticks. Lines like, "I will tame you in time," double as threat to opponents and whispers to the storm under his skin. Path 3, false dawn, hard fall. He appears changed. The amnesia feels real. He hesitates, even helps once. The fan base splits. Then the power surges and burns off the mercy. The tyrant returns, not as a cheap twist, but as a tragic inevitability. He was never going to stay soft. He was always going to choose domination when pushed. This path leaves scorch marks on characters who gambled on him and lost, and it sets up the cleanest finale if the writers want a hammer drop. Each path threads classic dynamics with fresh tension. Chun-Li's haunted calm, Ryu's search for balance, Guile's black and white code, Sagat's pride, Jury's delight in chaos. Even the new generation gets sharper edges when they bounce off a Bison who isn't just a cartoon tyrant. The rider complicates everyone. He looks different because he is. Bison rides, and the world moves.